The Galactic Council's warning came in 17 languages, broadcast across every human colony from Sol to the Outer Rim. Do not enter the Keth-Moran Labyrinth. It has claimed 43 species. None have returned. Captain Sarah Chen read the message twice before deleting it. The labyrinth hung in the void like a crystalline tumor, its impossible geometry twisting space around it into Mobius strips of light and shadow. For 3,000 years it had drifted through the galaxy's core, a relic of the extinct architects, the first species to achieve transcendence, and the last to leave anything behind except warnings carved in quantum substrate. The Veltar sent their finest mathematicians, Ambassador Theclon had explained during the emergency session. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a nervous tick that betrayed his usual diplomatic composure. The crystalline hegemony deployed their reality shapers, the void swimmers who exist partially outside normal spacetime, lost an entire generational ship to its depths. Chen had listened politely, nodding at appropriate intervals while her team ran calculations in the background. The labyrinth's energy signature was unlike anything in recorded galactic history, not just alien, but other. It didn't merely bend the laws of physics. It seemed to rewrite them entirely within its boundaries. And what exactly did these expeditions find? She had asked. Theclon's chromatophores shifted to deep purple, the Sistani equivalent of a shutter. Nothing. The labyrinth consumed them, ship and soul. The only evidence of their passage are the echoes their AIs broadcast in the moments before. Silence. That had been 6 months ago. Now the UES determination approached the labyrinth with a crew of 12 humans and 1 very nervous AI named Marcus, who had volunteered for what the Galactic Council unanimously considered a suicide mission. "I'm detecting spatial distortions at 40,000 kilometers," Marcus reported, his avatar flickering with anxiety subroutines. "The mathematical models aren't holding up. Space itself seems to be laughing at geometry." Chen smiled grimly. Wouldn't be the first time humans ignored what was mathematically impossible. The first sign that humans might be different came when they actually managed to dock with the labyrinth's outer ring. Where other species' ships had been instantly disintegrated or consumed, the determination somehow found purchase against the structure's ever-shifting surface. Dr. James Okafor, the mission's physicist, immediately began taking readings that made his instruments give up and display error messages in languages that hadn't been invented yet. "The exotic matter here isn't just defying known physics," Okafor muttered, his dark face creased with concentration. "It's actively hostile to the concept of physics, as if the architects designed it to reject any systematic understanding of reality." "Good thing humans are terrible at systematic thinking," replied Chief Engineer Rosa Mendoza, already suiting up for EVA. "We prefer the trial and error approach." The labyrinth's interior defied description in any language known to the galactic community. Corridors folded back on themselves while simultaneously extending to infinity. Gravity flowed like water, pooling in corners and streaming along walls. The very air seemed to whisper equations that made the mind hurt to contemplate. But humans, as it turned out, had spent millennia getting lost in places that made no sense. "It reminds me of my grandmother's attic," Mendoza commented cheerfully as they navigated a chamber where the ceiling was also the floor and the walls existed only on Tuesdays. Complete chaos, but there was always a pattern if you knew how to look for it. The breakthrough came when linguist Dr. Yuki Tanaka realized that the labyrinth wasn't trying to be solved. It was trying to communicate. The impossible architecture, the reality distortions, even the fate of previous expeditions were all part of a vast, complex message that could only be understood by a species chaotic enough to embrace contradiction. The architects weren't trying to keep people out, Tanaka explained excitedly as the team gathered around what appeared to be the labyrinth's central chamber, a space that somehow contained the entire structure while being contained within it. They were looking for a species capable of understanding paradox as a fundamental principle, rather than a problem to be solved. At the chamber's heart pulsed a sphere of impossible light, the labyrinth's core consciousness, the sum total of architect knowledge and the reason 43 species had vanished trying to claim it. Previous expeditions had approached it with careful preparation, advanced mathematics, and logical methodologies. The humans walked up to it and said hello. The response nearly tore their minds apart. Eons of accumulated wisdom, scientific knowledge, that spanned the birth and death of galaxies, and the secret of transcendence itself flooded into their consciousness. But where other species had been overwhelmed and dissolved by the sheer impossibility of it all, humans did what they had always done when faced with the impossible. They compartmentalized, adapted, and kept going. "Well," Chen said after the revelation passed, her voice only slightly strained as she processed the knowledge of how to fold space-time like origami. That was educational. The return journey took 3 days. The Galactic Council's emergency session convened the moment. The Determination limped back into normal space, her hull scarred with equations in languages that predated written history, and her crew radiating an energy signature that made nearby instruments weep. "Report," Ambassador Theclon demanded, all 4 eyes focused intently on Chen's image in the holographic display. Chen held up a small crystalline device, the Labyrinth's core, somehow compressed into a form that wouldn't immediately drive observers insane. "Mission accomplished. The architects left us a gift. Turns out they were looking for a species, crazy enough to deserve it." The silence that followed was deafening across 47 star systems. "You extracted the Labyrinth's heart?" Theclon's chromatophores had gone completely colorless. The repository of architect knowledge? The secret of transcendence itself? "Oh, that old thing." Chen's grin was positively wicked. "Turns out the secret to understanding impossible alien artifacts is the same as everything else humans do. Show up, make friends, and see what happens." As the Determination headed home, trailing quantum distortions and carrying the concentrated wisdom of a transcended civilization, the Galactic Council quietly updated their files on humanity. The new designation read simply, "Approach with caution." These beings do not recognize the word impossible. Behind them, the Labyrinth had collapsed into ordinary space-time, its purpose finally fulfilled. After 3 millennia of waiting, the architect's greatest work had found the one species chaotic enough to inherit their legacy, a species that looked at infinity and asked if it came with a warranty. The humans, meanwhile, were already planning their next impossible mission.